Okay, welcome back to 2S, the Horror Quarters podcast. Today we welcome back three dudes that were here before, close friends of mine. We have Corey.
Hi, everybody.
Vito.
What's up, motherfuckers?
And Spawn.
What up, what up?
What's up? So these guys wanted to come back in and discuss the Superman franchise as a whole in light of the new movie coming out this weekend.
Let's start off with the 1978 original, the Donner classic, Superman 1.
Let's do it.
I think the first and foremost, if we're going to talk about any Superman movie, it has to start with Richard Donner's classic, starting off with Christopher Reeve. That is the gold standard, where I think he got it right just the first time. He didn't have all these crazy superpowers. It was great. Hold on. Don't stink up my commentary just yet. But it was great too. I will say this, to me, it was great filmmaking of the past. It had that new Hollywood vibe. It's cinematically great. He had the beginning, middle, and end. Great characters, great actors. I know not everyone's a Gene Hackman fan, but damn it, did he kill as Lex Luthor?
No, he did not.
Oh, he did.
No.
He did.
No.
That being said, though, I mean, even if you're not like into the older stuff, Christopher Reeve just has this charm that makes you believe
100%.
that he's the man who can fly.
Right, absolutely.
And just the opening scene when you see Krypton. Like, at first I thought it was an ice planet. Is it a crystal planet? We don't know. But just it just takes you in this whole new world, which is amazing. It introduces you to General Zod, which is funny enough. It sets you up the second movie without telling you there's going to be a second movie. And it goes from there, from his childhood to how he gets to Metropolis, and then the adventures go from there.
Yeah.
Real quick, you mentioned something was an interesting point about Hackman earlier, and that he didn't even shave his head.
Yeah, he didn't shave his head.
Why was that?
I don't know, dude. Like, I just never got it. I'm like,
Superman
he should have committed 100%. If you're gonna play this character that has an iconic look, put on the bald cap, shave the shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude.
When they arrested him,
he would pull off the bush every so often, and then, like, you know, it just took me out of it.
What, are you into the bald men that you want to see? You want to see the top
Are we talking adults here? Are we adults here? What are we doing?
Now,
I'm
Corey,
not judging.
what does Corey think? What do you think about Hackman in the first one, essentially?
Well, I'll kick off the whole thing, how my appreciation for Superman. He's my favorite comic book hero, and that wasn't always the case, because as a little kid, this guy was my jam.
Shazam was dope.
Okay.
You know,
Great show too.
You know, I loved it. It was. I'm dating myself, but it was just an amazing show. And as a little kid, you know, we didn't really, care too much about the effects. Just to see, Jackson Boswick take off in the air and do what he did. But little did I know that within a couple of years, there's gonna be a guy named Christopher Reeve and Dick Donner who would say, "Here, kid, hold my beer.
Yeah.
We'll show you."
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that some people may not realize is that Chris Reeve isn't the first actor to play Superman on the big screen. That honor goes to Kirk Allen with the 1948 Superman movie serial, which is a lot of fun. Although Captain Marvel Shazam had one too, which is a lot better.
Yeah.
For me, Superman, this movie came out. It couldn't have came out at a better time, because I think a lot of the heavy lifting was done for him by Luke Skywalker. I think that Star Wars had definitely open the public's imagination, or mind for high concept fantasy.
Did you see it in the theater?
Yes, I did. And this movie brings back a lot of memories for me. Memories I can't get back, things in my life that I can't get back. But I remember when I saw Superman, it was amazing. It was Christmas break in 1978, and I saw really two cool movies that day, because I was on break from school. My father took me and my brothers in the afternoon to see The Wiz, and I think that's
I love The Wiz.
Wiz. And then at night, my aunt and uncle took me and my brothers to go see Superman, and I remember it's the theaters, the Concord Twin Cinema right next to the Concord Mall. And
what city is that?
Delaware. It's in Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay.
And sitting in that theater, and as a kid, your feet can't even touch the ground, and you look at that screen, and just the minute the movie started, it's telling you that this movie's larger than life. I mean, the credits alone could be a movie.
Yep.
Dun 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 dun.
Chills.
And then the S logo blows up on the screen, and you're just like, wow, this movie's just it's amazing. So yeah, and the film, Donner, or let me excuse me, Gene Hackman, for me, he was appropriate for what that movie was, because it has it has humor in it, not at the detriment of the character, but we hadn't gotten to like a truly, I guess, dark supervillain yet.
It was more of an instant time, we would agree, still, before comics went dark.
Yeah, and he did show the bald head. I mean, the scene where he was in his pool when Otis finds his wig. So they're letting you know that he is the bald head.
Right,
Lex Luthor.
but Gene Hackman could have just had the bald head the whole time.
I mean, I guess it's one way of looking at it. It didn't really bother me. And of course, at the end of the movie, it's Lex Luthor, greatest criminal mind of our time. I'm here by serving notice. He's serving notice. You shut up, you nitwit. Yeah. So Hackman was cool. It was, just the effects were amazing, and the movie took its time. It was
allowed the characters to breathe.
Yeah, it was so grandiose. I mean, you go from Krypton, Smallville, and you've heard this a million times, like the Norman Rockwell-esque painting. One of the most beautiful scenes is when after Jonathan Kent dies, young Clark's with his mother and they're standing in a wheat field, and and she knows he has to leave. Comes a time in every child's life when they have to leave the birds and have to leave the parents, and he's out there to find his destiny as Superman. So and it's, to me, of the Superman films I've seen with the David Cornsett one was standing. I haven't seen that one yet. This is still the best Superman. It's got some things, but overall, this is still the best movie because it's something magical about that movie.
Right.
That I don't think any film really has ever really kept, and not just Superman, but just that magic that I haven't seen in other films since.
Right. I think it has to do with there's certain themes in there too. Things between fathers and sons, which I think as an older man I relate to better now as a father myself. Also the love story. As I gotten older, I appreciate the love aspect between him and Lois because he doesn't have it easy. It's not like he just gets the girl,
Right.
And it's like it's like kind of like you like someone, you want to tell them something, but you can't.
I get it.
And to me, I like those elements as well too because it's not just superhero fisticuffs. You know what I mean? These are a lot of elements that he deals with. And I think Christopher Reeve does a great job of I think he shows us there's a better way to be as a human being.
Right.
You don't he doesn't go around abusing what he has. He's just there as
All right. Yep, I agree.
True, but that's who Superman is. The thing is, now I think he had it kind of easy. I mean, Lois was immediately smitten by him, but the romance is part of the film. And I'm not a romantic guy, but it adds to the magic of the film.
Well, she's smitten by him, but he wants her to get to know him as Clark because it's not just just Superman. It's like hey, there's more to me than just this.
The traditional triangle
because he still tried to pursue her as Clark Kent. Like he didn't want to. And what's cool is he doesn't know how to quite juggle that. Like he's thinking he can still have a personal life without realizing what's been bestowed upon him and in the responsibility. Because even his father talks about you're not one of them. You will live among them, but you have to show them a better way. You cannot just be one of them. You're not. And that's what's great where he has to, that will always weigh on his shoulders, you know what I mean? And obviously that plays more into the sequel, but I just liked how it just shows you what Metropolis would be like in 1978. You know what I mean? The can't Perry White was dope. Again, they don't get a lot of screen time, but they just like spices to a pot. It just adds to the flavor of everything. Even as hokey as Jimmy Olsen is, I still like the actor that played him. You know what I mean? He did he did just enough just to be for what that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just a little even sub characters in that worked at the Daily Planet just added to that life. Yeah. And just I to me, like you were saying, I think you brought up a good point. After Luke Skywalker, this was the next thing coming because again, you said Luke Skywalker opened that door. Now we have Clark Kent, aka Superman, and I think they continue that trend where it just felt. Like you said, something magical about that time and place.
Right. So let me, on my Superman experience, so this one I didn't see until like maybe 7 or 8 because I was, in 78 I was 2. The first one I saw was part 2. So I didn't see this one until maybe like the TV, remember back in the day when it was on,
ABC, it was the
ABC.
worldwide premiere.
So the thing that, so I enjoyed it, of course, because I was a kid. And when I started getting older, I didn't like it as much, especially with the time travel at the end. But as an adult, the thing I love about it is the innocence of like we said earlier, off camera, is when you see him flying and people surprised and people in shock and awe and amazement of this man flying, the things that he did, and it was just an innocence that in all comic book universes today, whether it be the Boys or DC or Marvel, there is no one in shock and awe of these superheroes no more, and it takes away from the power that these heroes have.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's just like it's kind of like it's jaded, just like we kind of are with the internet. We've seen everything there is to see, and back in that time, the innocence of it. Now, as Christopher Reeves, as far as him as Superman, I'm not like Christopher Reeves or nobody. You know what I mean? I'm a big Henry Cavill guy. You know what I'm saying? But he just embodies both characters 100%. He's a perfect Clark Kent, and he's a perfect Superman. He is the perfect Boy Scout. He does the right thing even when no one's looking, like, you know, the cat in the tree thing, you know what I mean? Like, they always make fun, oh, are you gonna go save a cat from a tree type thing with Superman, but he just embodies it to me. But now as an adult, I just don't dig the Gene Hackman. He's just too 1960s Batman for me as a fan. You know what I mean? Like, that character's a son of a bitch, and I always wanted to see him ruthless, you know what I mean, and cunning, and I just didn't get that from Gene.
Two nuclear missiles at the San Andreas Fault.
But that was later on. That was later on.
Well,
was it in part 4?
These plans take time. It's not like you can just hijack any.
I'm talking about
warhead.
He was just like, I don't know, just I didn't buy him as
great
Lex
plans
Luthor.
take time, but I will say this. You know what? You brought up a good point though in terms of him being a good guy. I think Christopher Reeve, what he did so well was he's not corny as Clark Kent, because when Clark Kent speaks from the heart, he tries to tell you to do better. He comes across where you want to do better. I mean, he doesn't scold you, but he kind of tells you, let's just do
right.
better.
He leads by example.
Yeah,
and that's the same thing what Superman does.
He gives respect
to me.
He's always giving, like, even to the villains, like with Lex Luthor, still gave him respect. Wasn't trying to be a dick.
Right. He always called him Mr. Luthor. So I mean, like, I when I watch it now, the nostalgia takes over, and I love it, and the innocence. That's my only nitpick about the original 78. The Gene Hackman's one of the finest.
Doyle a break, goddammit.
No, he's one of the finest actors of that time, probably like top 3 at that time. But I don't know, it just didn't do anything for me. And but I mean, I love Margot Kidder as Lois Lane.
She was amazing in that.
Everyone was great in their roles, and I mean, Marlon Brando.
Marlon was dope in that.
The thing that I love is the behind the scenes where Marlon Brando's being a dick to Christopher Reeves. And he's like kind of snickering at Christopher Reeve's acting. And then so Christopher Reeves, they say cut, and he pulls Marlon aside. Hey, if you have something to say, can we maybe talk offset and talk about it? Like, right? Yeah. He called out Marlon Brando like, yo, you have a problem with my acting? Maybe I could go tap your jaw real quick somewhere. And then the next day in Christopher Reeve's in his trailer, there was a fruit basket, apologizing and shit because he had to call him out.
And I think that's dope because he handled it like a man. Like, if you got a problem, let's go handle it.
He stood by his, his convictions. I
mean, I respect that.
Anyone else would have been like overwhelmed because Marlon Brando considered the greatest actor of all time considered, and him making fun of you, he could have got in his head and really fucked it up for the whole movie.
I agree. And
Instead, he stood on his business and was like, you have a problem with me? Let's go talk about it.
Agreed. And I love Marlon Brando, but I'm glad he handled it.
Hardcore.
A couple things. Okay, so you first saw it on TV. That's interesting. So you actually saw the extended version. That was your first time. Okay, that's really interesting because, the extended version to me was a big treat because we had seen the theatrical cut.
Right.
And to see the stuff that was left out, like when Luthor had all the traps and stuff set up in his underground lair before Superman got to him.
Was amazing when you see it.
I'm going to push back a little bit on Luthor because, look, we didn't really have a guideline to go by. I mean, because you got to remember, Superman came out in 78, so comic books were kind of
100%
in a cultural shift. I mean, we were starting to get more mature stories, but we still hadn't gotten to that level like what we got to in the 80s.
Right.
So like,
Mark Miller.
By 78, I mean, like, okay, you had stuff like the X-Men from Marvel that was kind of a metaphor for the downtrodden and people,
civil rights,
people, Spider-Man was the kid that was trying to make ends meet. So you had stuff like that. DC hadn't quite transitioned over to that. Right. They had some things like Batman
and Green Arrow, Green Lantern.
Yeah, Batman was edgier now because Daniel Neal Adams was working on the book. But with Superman, I think Hackman was appropriate for the movie, and he was really evil because there's certain scenes, if you rewatch the film, I think one of the coldest scenes is when he confronts Superman for the first time, and Superman says, "Is this how a warped brain like yours gets its kicks? By planning the death of innocent people?" And he stone cold looks Superman in the eye and says, "No, by causing the death of innocent people."
Yeah,
that's a great point, because that was just the way the timing of it was like the funniness went out of the air immediately. Just he goes, "Nah, by causing."
And yeah, there are comedic moments. A lot of his interaction with Otis. You
Right.
know, but like I said, I think for that movie, it was appropriate, and it's like I can't really. He's not as over the top campy as a Batman villain.
But I see where he's going with that there in terms of the colorfulness, the flamboyancy of how he played it.
Yeah, you know.
When I want to say it's flamboyant, I'd say that's more reserved for someone like Cesar Romero or Burgess Meredith, in the Batman series.
Agreed,
but there's
dialed
humor
down
in
a
it.
little bit more though. I would say
There's humor in it, but at the end of the day, he's a very malevolent person, and he really only cares about himself. I mean, but you got to remember too, this was the first big budget comic book movie in the modern era,
Right.
and in many ways it's still the template for today's comic book movies.
Right.
I mean, anytime you have someone like Kevin Feige, head of Marvel, Patty Jenkins, who did Wonder Woman, even Rob Liefeld himself, the creator of Deadpool, says Superman is still his favorite comic book movie. So it shows you how much power and influence this film still has down the years, because they did a lot of things right. They didn't. And this film could have went very, very wrong.
Right.
I think this film was fortunate to have Richard Donner, because he looked at
yeah.
Superman as an American institution. Like, this is Superman. This is something we're going to take this
Not a comic book.
serious.
no, he had a lot of respect for it. He
Yeah.
had to actually stranglehold the producers, which is why he got fired, because they wanted to go off. They wanted to do their thing, and he understood what the character was. Right. And so Richard Donner was the driving force that set the template. Regardless of why he got fired, which we know why, because of the producers not liking him having that stranglehold, but Donner's vision is what influenced the movies going forward. To back up Corey's point on that.
Yes and no. I mean, there was definitely a turmoil on the set. I mean, I'm pretty sure people who are fans of the movie know the situation now. And I don't know exactly what the cause was. I got to rewatch my documentary on the movie, but I know that it got to a point where, well, let me take a step back, because interesting, what Donner wanted to do with Superman was something that Robert Zemeckis would eventually do, Peter Jackson, and the Wachowskis. He was filming Superman 1 and 2 back to back.
Right.
And the reason we know this, well, of course, it's been documented, but once again, you didn't see the theatrical cut, but at the end of the theatrical cut, because I was kind of a goofy kid back then, I would sit all the way through the end credits. I remember when the credits were over, it said coming next year, Superman 2.
Yeah.
Because the idea was Superman came out in 78, Superman 2 was supposed to come out, I think, spring of 79.
Oh, okay.
And eventually, it didn't come out until 1981.
Right.
And actually,
And that's the one that I saw.
It got released in Europe. I believe
6 months
before the American release, but he was filming a lot of the scenes back to back, the Force of Solitude scenes. That's why even though it's a Superman 2, there's scenes where Margot Kidder's hair doesn't match up. Because
And I think those were from the reshoots that Richard Lester did.
Reshoots. So, but I know that during the production, something was. They weren't hitting it off Richard Donner and the Salkinds, Alexander and Ilya Salkind.
Two different visions they had, because they brought in their screenwriters. I forgot their last names, but Richard Donner brought in
Tom Mankiewicz.
Yes, that was his boy, and he couldn't get screen credit, so he had got screen consultant. And it was actually Mario Puzo, who did The Godfather, wrote the story. There were two other screenwriters who wanted to emphasize the campiness of it, going back to what you said about the Batman, because the Batman TV show was what they had. That was still the template for everything. He wanted to go more campy. Richard Donner was like, no, so he brought in his boy, Tom
Mankiewicz.
And that's what brought the more serious tone to the film, and they brought that balance. So that's basically, it was a power struggle where the producers, as good as they were, didn't like being told by the director, who the director was, I know what I'm doing. This is Richard Donner. He's a new Hollywood director. He's used to Bill saying, hey, trust in me. You hired me to do the job. I know what I'm doing on this one. And what the sad thing was, this movie was a success, and he still got fired.
Well, yeah. I mean, so what happened was during the shoot, they sent Richard Lester. They sent Lester, actually. Lester was acting as a mediator between, because Donner, it got to the point Donner didn't even want to conversate with producers. So Lester was like the mediator between those two. But I think also he and I could be wrong. I think he was also kind of keeping an eye on Donner, because I think he'd worked with the Salkinds before on the Three Musketeer movie.
Yes.
So eventually, what led to Donner being let go was after Superman came out and was a success. It was an interview with either Hollywood Reporter or Variety, and they were talking about Superman 2, and the Saul Kynes were ready to do Superman 2, and Donner said something to the effect of, well, if they're on the film, I'm not. And then Saul Kynes got wind of that, and they let him go and brought in Richard Lester to finish up Superman 2. And of course, this was very divisive because I guess there were certain people that had loyalty to Donner, like I think Mankiewicz and of course Margot Kidder.
Right. And Gene Hackman.
Margot Kidder had expressed her
loyalty,
her displeasure, with them letting Donner go, and so that's how we got to Lester with Superman 2 and 3. Of course, we wouldn't come around to the Donner cut of Superman 2 to like decades later.
So Superman 2 was the first one I saw in the theater. I saw that one in the theater. I remember me and my mom in line. I couldn't wait, and to this day, it's in my top 20 movies of all time. The fight scene with Zod, the menace and the fear of Zod, and I forgot the other two's name.
Non and Ursa.
Ursa, and the menace and the fear that they, like 3 superhumans versus the one. I mean, I was never more like as a kid nervous and because the year before is when I first saw Empire Strikes Back, and I felt the same way with Vader and that
Luke.
Innocence, and Luke when Vader's whipping my guy's ass, cutting his hand off and everything. And so I mean, to me, that's the gold standard, especially of those first 4, is that movie is just, it's fun. It's not making fun of itself to kind of spite itself. It's just excellent. The love story, that the sacrifice that Clark Kent is willing to do in terms of giving up his powers for the love. This is the one I've seen the most. I mean, I could watch it without having to watch, 1 through 4. I could watch this one all by itself. If it's on TV, I'll drop the remote, watch it. It's just one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, Terence Stamp is just a tour de force in this one, dude. And that's why I'm still pissed off about Phantom Menace, is that you brought in General Zod and you didn't do shit with him. You know what I'm saying? I just don't like Phantom Menace so much because they felt like they ruined a lot of resources that they had. Like, they had Terence Stamp in this motherfucker. They had General Zod, and they did nothing with my dude. Nothing with General Zod.
Well, Superman wasn't in it. Who's he gonna fucking fight?
Oh, come on now. You know what I'm saying, though. Chancellor Valorum, and just don't do nothing with him. And one of the most menacing. He could have been something great in
Look, Jar Jar Binks had his moment to shine. Damn it, that was his movie.
See what I have to deal with. So anyway, yeah, and that fight scene in Metropolis, downtown Metropolis, or wherever it is one of my most copied. When I used to play with my action figures as a kid, whether it be He-Man, Superpowers, G.I. Joe, I used to always try to do that fight scene over and over and over. I just love that fight scene with, even though this
epic.
Yeah, 100%. Still one of my favorite.
Because you can see the actual power,
right. And they took their time with everything. It wasn't just so nowadays these fight scenes are just so fast, and they're just ripping through buildings and doing all kinds of shit. Each thing took its time. Him lifting up the bus and all that shit. It was just, they took their time with everything. They sold everything. I mean, to me, it's just, there's a million battles nowadays, John Wick and all these great kung fu movies and all these great battles and all the MCU. But to me, this one is just still as iconic to me.
Maybe because it was the first?
It was probably the first. That's probably what it is. But I mean,
Star Wars was standing, but the first in terms of a superhero, and you just saw the gratitude of the power just being hit from the speed, the flying, the punches, the eye beams.
And the fact that Luthor was kind of on the sidelines really brought me bliss. You know what I mean? And to me, General Zod is the man, especially Terence Stamp's version is just awesome. What about you? You saw it in the theater too?
Care to step outside?
That's my favorite line, dude. I get chills every time I think about that line.
Are you talking about now or after the show?
But yeah, no. To me, Superman 2 is the gold standard. I mean, I love Man of Steel. And we'll get to that one. But Superman 2, it doesn't top it. And no matter what version it is, I'm good. But man, when I saw it in the theater, God, it was just amazing. So.
Oh, and that was the first one I saw was Superman 2 as a kid. That's still my go-to. And again, I think it was 5 or 6 when I first saw that one. So it just has the nostalgia, just like you was talking about here. That was the first time you seen someone what a super punch would do to another person.
Yep.
The way when he threw Zod into the Coke sign,
that's
still iconic.
Yep, that's my shit.
And you think about it too, from a technical aspect, just the wire work to get that guy flying like that, what he did. And the other thing was crazy too. That was one of the last movies that they're still doing miniatures on that still held up. The miniature work on that one for the special effects, still holds up for the most part. I'm not saying they're perfect in 2025. No need to stank on, classic films, Corey. But again, too, like, when Ursa hits, punches Superman, he crashes into the building, and him going back and forth. And my favorite part, when Non and Superman are underground, under the street, duking it out, and he smacks Zon out of the street into 2 or 3 buildings, and the way they showed him flying through everything was just amazing. Everything about that movie, you get the great recap of the first film.
Except for the whatever that.
Oh, that was dope.
No, it's
the
not.
Superman net. No. Dude, I would always pretend that with my friends all the time.
Yeah, no, I can't fuck with that.
That shit
is corny to me.
That is not corny.
That is
awful. That's his soup. To me, that's a Kryptonian soup that Jor-El said, here, if someone fucks with you, throw them in this.
Or if you want to preserve your lunch and put your sandwich in there, here you go.
That works just as well.
Saran wrap Superman.
You know what was dope though too? The opening sequence in Paris, I love that. To me, one of my favorite shots, and I don't know how they did it because I can't see the wires. But the camera shifts real quick as he's flying to the Eiffel Tower.
Oh yeah, no, I love that scene.
And you see him zooming in real quick, and then when he captures Lois, and then you see him going up there. No need to stank on my camera view. Apparently, Corgor here is a big fan of Superman 2 as well.
What do you?
All right.
So you saw it. How old were you saw it?
I guess I'm the old man on the block because I did see it in the theater summer of ~81. That was a great summer for movies too, man. I mean, of course, '82 is legendary, but '81 wasn't bad either. I mean, that was the middle of the second big film I saw that summer. First one was Clash of Titans, which I love to this day.
Yep, love that one.
Then I remember seeing Superman 2. It was me and some friends from the neighborhood. Some kids around the neighborhood, we went to go see it with my brothers. Once again, at the same place at the Concord Twin Cinema. And then, of course, the final film I saw that summer. And actually, the film that beat Superman that summer. The biggest highest grossing film of '81, which no one saw coming, was a little archaeologist on a quest for the Ark of the Covenant. That had to race the Nazis to get to it. He actually beat Superman that summer. Yeah. But and
rightfully so. I mean, that's a classic.
Yeah, it's a better movie. Yeah. Superman 2, I prefer the Donner cut. But in the grand scheme of things, the film itself has kind of really fallen a bit out of favor with me. I don't look at it I'm not as enamored as I used to be. It's a fun movie. It really is fun. But
let me ask you this before we go any further, because what was it that caused it to fall out of favor for you?
I was going to get to that.
My bad. Go ahead. You got this.
It's goofier in many ways. The effects aren't as good. One of the things I noticed, once again, you don't notice this stuff as a kid, but when you get older, right at the beginning of the movie, when he turns into Superman, he has to go to the Eiffel Tower, to get the bomb. Well, and I love the alleyway change. That's cool when he does the transition. He's running. That's cool. But when he takes off, it looks like it's chroma keyed. It just kind of diagonally flies across the screen. It looks really cheesy. And even when he flies to the Eiffel Tower, you can tell it's like a plate, a matte plate, or whatever you call it in front.
Yeah.
Also, too, when they have the battle in the city, and they do the miniature shots of the Superman being pursued by the Kryptonian criminals, you can tell they're like dolls. You can absolutely look at them, tell they're like little miniature wire dolls. What else about the movie?
What about the fight scene?
This fight scene, I loved it as a kid, and really when I was growing up, Superman 2 was the one I liked the most.
Okay.
And the fight scenes were cool, and I guess I'm spoiled by today's comic book movies a bit more. The fight, and even back then, like you compare it to Empire Strikes Back. Empire's fight is still better to me than lightsaber battle.
Oh no, absolutely.
I mean, and compared to like what you get in some of the later Star Wars movies, it moves a bit slow, but I still think
I'm talking about the anxiety as a kid I had to see 3 superhumans.
I was excited
versus my one Superman. You know what I mean?
I was
so
excited.
That's what caused like my 5-year-old anxiety.
I was excited, but I mean, I wouldn't use dying for me. I was just excited. I thought it was a cool fight. But it's very slow compared to what you see today. Like when I look at something like Blade 2 and Blade's throwing down with Nomak,
right?
And that fight's just brutal, man. And they're just going for it.
Oh, that's one of my favorites too. But I'm just saying.
But you can't compare it to though, because it's of its time.
Let me finish. I understand that this came out in 1981, and what I do like, I mean, Superman 2. It was it paved the road for stuff that we would get down the road. Like for example, like Terence Stamp's General Zod is amazing in the film. I think he's kind of like the forerunner to Loki.
Absolutely.
That superpowered villain that's not of Earth, whose only purpose is to to dominate and subjugate humans. When I saw Loki in the Avengers, and and he's standing around with his scepter and his the ram horn helmet, and he's making everybody kneel. I was like, okay, yeah, this is throwing back to Terence Stamp,
right?
And I thought that was amazing. But the film has a lot of it's stuff that doesn't hold up well. Let me put it that way. For example, when he loses his powers, even the way he went about it, he tripped over the polar bear rug in the Niagara Falls scene. Like, come on, Superman, Clark Kent wouldn't do that. And I know Reeve plays the goofy Kent. A lot of people like that. I was going to say that about Superman the movie, and it is a testament to Christopher Reeve's acting ability. May he rest in peace. He was able to give you two different personalities. Clark's kind of bungling, and goofy. And I think a lot of people, because they were so impressed with that, a lot of people today still think that's the way you have to play Clark Kent, and I disagree with that. Personally, my favorite live action Clark Kent until I see David Cornsweet is Dean Cain. That's another, but I think because Clark doesn't have to be a goofball to separate himself from Superman. I'm a firm believer in that. So we get to Superman 2, and they're in Niagara Falls. He trips over the polar bear rug and he falls into the fire, and she finds out he's Superman. I was like, yeah, as a kid, it didn't bother me, but I got older, like, yeah. But then he gives his powers up, and I get it. I think the Donner cut goes into it more because he wants to be among us. He wants to have a life like a normal human. He doesn't want to be.
He felt like he gave enough already.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be Superman all the time. And this theme to me would be revisited again in the far superior Spider-Man 2, which I noticed Spider-Man 2 and 3 kind of model themselves after Superman 2 and 3, but
absolutely,
they're far better movies. Even despite emo Tobey Maguire.
You love emo Toby.
It's dog shit. Anyway, go ahead. Please proceed.
But
it's goofy. Not let Vito put us in the muck.
He loses. So he gives up his powers. I wouldn't have done that for Lois Lane, but he gives up his amazing powers, and so he's a human man. So then he goes to the restaurant, and this is one of the problems I have. I've never subscribed to the theory that Superman can't fight without his powers. Matter of fact, I'd even say he's probably a more dangerous fighter because he doesn't have to hold back as much. As a human, he could be let himself loose.
I like that.
But a lot of people feel like, I don't know, there's just some people that want to cut Superman down all the time. Mm-hmm. That's not me. Because I think he's a great hero. But so, the restaurant scene, and it's hard to kind of like, as a kid, rationalize it though. As a kid, I loved it, but look, to me, so he gets to the restaurant, and he goes in the restroom, the dude comes over and sits next to Lois, and then he's like, sir, this is my seat, your seat's in there 4 eyes, and all of a sudden he wants to start a fight. Oh, sir, somebody needs to teach you some manners. Like, oh man, it's like what would have been better. Well, of course, then okay, 4 eyes, and then he turns around, he punches Clark in the back, and he gets his butt kicked. And I guess it was the kind of humble Superman, which I don't think he
never felt pain before. He never
really needed to be humbled,
but he never felt pain.
I know that. But here's a way, and I'm not a director. Fair enough. I'm just a way. And look, everybody has a way they would direct a movie in their mind. So this is how I would have loved to have seen it done. Maybe the guy doesn't want to give it the seat. Says, "Honey, let's go sit somewhere else." So he gets up. Him and Lois get up. And they go sit. They sit to another seat. But then the dude, being a jerk that he is, comes over and still talks to Lois. Okay, now you're being disrespectful to me and my woman. Hey, you want the seat that bad, you can have it, but we'd like to eat in peace. And the guy won't leave Superman alone. Mm-hmm. So then he starts a fight, and they get into a fight. And Reeve wins, but he has to put in a work, and his knuckles and stuff are sore because he's never really had to fight like a human man. I still think you could have got the point.
I like that.
And then that's when he realizes that he sees he cuts to the newsfeed and General Zod's on Earth and stuff. Oh man,
Right.
But then so he gets beat up. We get back to the real version. So he gets beat up. All right. So then he realizes he gave his powers up for selfish reasons, and the world's at peril now. And that's when he really realizes that as Superman, I belong to the world, and it's a lesson he had to learn. So then he hikes all the way back to the Fortress of Solitude in a windbreaker. The man's in Antarctica. It's like, dude,
windbreakers were well built in the 80s.
He could at least stop by McCready and the boys at the Antarctica and borrow Kurt Russell's thing from the
He knew better. He didn't want to become a thing.
No, get one of those third furry. What I'm saying is, I was like, come on, dude, you got this little thin jacket on. He'd been dead before he got there.
He wore that same outfit in the first movie to get there.
Yeah, but he was super at the time.
Yeah, it's cool.
Which is a good point, but let me jump in there now, too, because going with you were saying...
It's corny.
But let me jump in there real quick.
It's corny, So, and I look at the movie like, wow, and then the humor, the goofy stuff at the Daily Planet with the Kryptonian criminals. I mean, Hackman's funny, and he's definitely more goofier in this one than he is in the first Superman. I mean, he does. It is kind of cool to see him play both sides, but this film, man, just at the end of the movie, like a lot of people always ding the first Superman about spinning the world backwards.
That shit.
But here's the thing where I'll defend that. It had a lot of dramatic power because, like you said, he never been hurt. He never really, well, he had faced death before, but once again, he failed again to save someone he loved.
Right. And
I understood that, but now he's different now. He knows, and yeah, it really stretches what Superman can do, but it had so much dramatic weight because he was so crushed by her
Christopher
death.
Reeve's acting, yes.
But here's what nobody really talks about, and I think it's far goofier than the spinning around the Earth. The memory erase kiss, the super kiss. Like,
I hate that too. They did that in part 4.
That exists. That actually exists in the comics.
Yeah, it's stupid in the comics too. So
No one said it wasn't, but it still exists.
It's still ridiculous.
I don't remember
It's
any
source
comics,
material.
Yeah, well.
There are receipts. But I will say this, though. I want to jump back a couple things that Corey said. One could imagine, okay, if you were superpowered, right? Him being depowered, wouldn't it kind of feel like if you lost all your strength, you would be like your equilibrium is kind of off at that point. If you've ever been sick and you just feel completely wiped out, who's to say he wasn't wiped out after feeling that? He hadn't adjusted yet, right? I'm just saying, just for argument's sake, right? It's possible he's still acclimating.
What are we talking about, the fights?
Yeah, in the bar. Actually, in the diner. That's why he got his ass whipped.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, just hear me out. Is it possible?
listening.
Maybe he's still acclimating that. Now he's no longer super. Maybe he's just feeling wiped out. We don't know what he feels like.
When you got his ass whooped, that was it.
No, before he's got his ass whipped, he goes into the diner. He's not feeling super, and again, not knowing how to act because he's always had to hold, like you said, hold back on everything, right? So now he doesn't have to hold back. Now he's going to try to do something stereotypical. Would you like this character to step outside? And he realized that's not how the real world works. He got his ass whipped, and he did get humble. And I like what you said about the knuckles. The only thing I would say is how it would play out in your version. Pacing would be off. That'd be my only concern about that, but I like how you brought up the knuckles. I think would be a great point on that. That being said, as it is, I think the movie is great as a kid's film. I like the fantasy aspect of it. I like the opening scene where they kill off the little soldier that has nothing to do with the first movie. But again, those were scenes shot by Richard Lester, and you could see the tone difference between the two scenes. I know you. What's going on?
No, I'm trying to capitalize your point. V, you're making stuff up for the movie. I'm just working with
You
you.
made up a whole
the
scene.
time. He does
You
that
made up a whole scene.
But you're making stuff
Did
up
you just
for the movie.
write the whole scene? Hey, Lester,
No, he
here's
said
how
I would have done it like this.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
You're saying maybe he was like this.
You're trying to say stuff that was like.
Well, you have to
in a
interpret
movie
it.
that would, like,
You have to interpret it, though. Nothing's going to
really.
be on the nose. You sometimes have to like take a step back and be like, why did this thing play out the way it is?
But if that was a situation that like the molecule chamber that stripped him of his powers, drained him out, that would have been brought up in the movie as a plot point, but it wasn't. And even if that's the case, you got to remember too, it was just way the movie is cut. It was a couple of days between the time he had given up his powers, and remember him and Lois Lane were in bed for quite a while.
Right, and
that's
the reason why he wanted to lose his powers, because he knew if he banged her while he was super, he would have blew her brains out.
Actually, I think he banged her before he gave her the power, because I believe they already.
Oh, he gave her the power, right?
Yeah.
But point I'm saying is,
She
just
survived the load.
I'm just working within the frame of the movie, the information that the movie gave me. I'm not really trying to
No mind cannon.
bring stuff in that may or may not exist. I mean, I appreciate you coming from, but all the point I'm trying to say is that I get older and I look at that scene again. I'm like, well, Superman kind of asked for that. He could have walked away.
Sometimes you got to see the forest beyond the trees. That's all I'm saying, people.
He could have walked away. But then, we get to the battle Metropolis, and it's fun, but it's really slow, like I said, compared to today's stuff. And then even then, it gets kind of like goofy, like when the criminals are blowing the city down, and the cars are actually floating in the air and flying across it, but people are still playing on the ground. I mean, yeah, you got the guy on the roller skates moving backwards. But
Favorite scene.
But the people still kind of playing it on the ground, and I'm just like, yeah, Superman 2 just doesn't. It's and it's Lester. This is Lester's version too, because Lester brings in a lot of humor.
Right.
And we're
going to talk about that in 3 because I want to set 3 off when it's time.
So like to me, it's like it doesn't quite hold up, and in the grand scheme of things, it's fallen down a couple notches as far as like what Superman movies I prefer.